What is going on, everyone? Happy Tuesday, and welcome to another edition of the Ryan Ripken Show presented by our friends over at Merit Clubs. I love doing this. I'm not Ryan Ripken. I'm Zach Bollinger. Ryan will be joining us in a little bit, but do not worry. We still have a jam-packed show to talk about. Starting all off, we're talking about Dylan Beavers and the Baltimore Orioles, where they are going from here. We're about 3 days away now from players being able to come up and keep rookie eligibility next year, which would allow the Orioles to get a compensatory pick if that player wins Rookie of the Year. We'll get into that. We got some crazy things going on. We've got the Milwaukee Brewers with a 10-game win streak, the best team in baseball by 5 whole games. Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift teaming up for a podcast. We'll break that down a little bit, talk about the implications. Then, of course, we've got to talk about Tarek Skubal went on foul territory and discussed the new, I don't want to call it a new phenomenon, but this more advanced way of catching pitchers tipping pitches and how he his thoughts on it, and we'll react to that. Also, we're going to go around the NFL because why? Because the NFL season is right around the corner. Yes, we're about, less than a month away from the first game of the season. So, thank you all for tuning in. Hit that like and subscribe button if you're new, and we are going to hop into it right away. At the moment, it's just me, but Ryan will be hopping on in a little bit. But I wanted to start off with kind of the news. If you watched Kevin and Zach react last night, we kind of already broke it down. But yesterday, Baseball America came out with their updated top 100 rankings for baseball. And you might be telling yourself, well, why does that matter? It's August 12th. You know, why do I care about where they rank prospects right now? Well, if you're the Orioles, it matters a lot. And we'll get into it. Here we go. First off, you see, obviously, Samuel Basallo comes in at number 7. He was never an issue. It was never a question on whether or not he'd be on these lists. It was just an issue of how high would he go? How high could he reach? And this is where it is. Number 7 currently on the Baseball America top 100. Nate George comes in at 81, and I could not be happier. Could not be happier for him. A 16th round pick in the 2024 draft just a year ago. Skyrocketing through the rankings, skyrocketing through the minor leagues, already got the promotion to high A Aberdeen at just 19 years old. Now, here's where it gets important. Yes, we'll talk about Esteban Mejia. Awesome for the young star, rising pitcher, to crack the top 100, get what he deserves. Get the recognition he deserves for the fantastic season he's having. But the big thing on here, and as Steve Mileski pointed out in his tweet, Dylan Beavers is among them. Now, why does that matter? So, if a team would like to receive draft compensation for a rookie winning Rookie of the Year, 2 things must happen. 1, that player must start the season on the opening day roster. So, on day 1, he's got to be on the opening day roster. 2, that player must be a top 100 prospect in 2 of the 3 major prospect ranking lists, being MLB Pipeline, Baseball America, and ESPN. So if you get in 2 of 3 of those, you're in. You've got it in the preseason rankings. Now, that's preseason. Dylan Beavers at 83, you're feeling confident he's not going to drop 17 spots between now and the preseason rankings. So 83 here is a big deal because it checks off 1 of the 3. Now, MLB Pipeline came out with adding their draft picks this season. So in that, I don't believe they updated rankings on current players. And here we see the first domino fall. This is why I know people are upset. They're like, why is Dylan Beavers not on the Orioles? You know, why is he not up here yet? Why are we throwing Ryan Noda, Jordan Adams, Dylan Carlson? Why are these guys going out there? Greg Allen, why are they going out there? Why don't you call up your best outfield prospect? Here's why. Because it gave them the opportunity. Everyone said, well, he's not a top 100 prospect. Why are they wasting time? Because there was always the possibility of this. This is why. Love it or hate it. I'm not a fan of manipulating, all that stuff to get it. But I would have loved Beavers up a month and a half ago. But this was the smart thing to do because of this. Because now he's got one down. Now in the preseason rankings, he now needs to get into baseball or MLB Pipeline or ESPN to qualify for that draft pick. So Dylan Beavers now officially kind of gets that foot in the door of that, top 100 for at least one of the publications. And now here we sit on August 12th, 2025, and we are about 3 days away from when I believe Dylan Beavers and a Samuel Basallo, because that also obviously, the whole, hey, you want to be in the top 100, you want to start the year on the major league roster. That's what Basallo is going to do. He will be on the major league roster probably in the next week, and he will be there to start next season, especially because they love their draft picks. So Sam Basallo also at number 7. I would say, when we're looking forward to what the Orioles are going to do over the next few weeks, over the next month and a half before the season concludes, I think the first major step that we see forward and, okay, we're going to see what these guys can do is in the next, I would love it on the 15th to see that both guys have been called up. I would. I don't know if it's going to be exactly on the 15th. I would really appreciate if it was on the 15th, but on the 15th, officially rookies or guys are able to come up and play the rest of the year, and they will not exceed the limits of becoming not rookie eligible, of losing rookie eligibility in 2026. So if you're an Orioles fan, if you've been sitting here and you've been waiting, you've been sitting around hoping, when are we seeing Sam Basallo? When are we seeing Dylan Beavers? I'm here to tell you the light at the end of the tunnel is here. It is right there. It is within grasp. I think within the week, both of these players are up in the lineup for Baltimore. And as we talk about that, what goes on after that? Okay, cool. They get called up. What do you want to see? For me, it's simple. They have to play almost every single freaking day. They have to play almost every single day. If you have 6 games in a week, they better be starting in 5 of them. Whether for Basallo it's at DH or catcher, he has to be in the lineup almost every single day. For Dylan Beavers, whether it's right field, center field, left field, DH, whatever it may be, he has to be in the lineup almost every single day. It's plain and simple. If you are going to bring these guys up, you have to play them, because it does you absolutely no good whatsoever to sit back and let these guys sit on the bench. Let's use Kobe Mayo as an example. Since July 25th, Kobe Mayo has been playing almost every single day. Since then, he has an OPS of over 850. What happens when you allow young, talented players to get their feet wet, to get comfortable in the major leagues, and actually get the opportunity to fail? Let's look at, all these guys. Every young kid has a stretch of failure. Jack Caglione. Let's look at the Royals. Everyone said that Jack Caglione, he's coming up, of course. Why can't the Orioles get a guy like this who's going to come up and be this rookie that changes everything? Well, if you've been paying attention, Jack Caglione, Jack Cag as they call him, he's batting 147 this season in Kansas City. Batting 147 and 150 at-bats. Even these guys that everyone has, they're raking in the minors, and everyone's like, this guy's a can't miss. He's going to come up here, hit 300. He's going to be the best player in the league. Doesn't happen that way. So what you do to help yourself in 2026, because the Orioles the goal should still be to compete in 2026. A way to do that is you allow them to fail this year. Allow them to fail this year. Allow them to get those bumps out of the way. Let them go out there. Let Dylan Beavers, if he needs to, go 0 for 25. Let Sam Basallo, if he needs to, go 0 for 25. And let them mentally get out of that. That is what the goal is. If you are sitting there and you want to win in 2026, you need to know what these guys can give you, and you need to allow them to get those early struggles, get comfortable. I know, I see the comments. Little late, Zach wasted. It's not a little late. It's actually right on time. These guys didn't waste time in the minors. In fact, they did exactly what the Orioles needed them to do. They dominated in AAA, and they went out there. Now they are setting themselves up to give the opportunity to where if these guys can succeed next year, it benefits the team in every way. Sam Basallo, Dylan Beavers could have been up here a month ago. If you want to say he's been sitting there waiting, 100%. I genuinely think people forget how old Sam Basallo is. Like, he's 20 years old. Like, if you guys think a 20-year-old, he's 20 years old, going to be in the majors. If you guys think that's sitting around, I watch a different sport, because I don't think you know what you're watching. I'm going to be very honest with you people. Like, if you think a 20-year-old has been idling, has been waiting too long in AAA in the minors, most of those guys are in college. Most of those guys aren't starting in college at 20 years old. Most 20-year-olds are sitting there and being like, hey, we're in single A, we're in double A. If you want to say Dylan Beavers needs to be, sitting up here a month ago to help the team, I agree. That might have been the way to go. He would have been prepared at 24. But in the other way, Sam Basallo, they had to let do this. They had to let him have the ability to fail and then come back and dominate. And that's what he's doing. He has 10 hits in his last 28 at-bats in AAA, 3 of which are home runs. That is what you wanted to see from Sam Basallo. That now sets him up to come into the majors where he feels like, hey, he can fail, but he has that momentum going. For Dylan Beavers, same thing. Yes, if you want to talk about if this team was competing this year and they felt like Dylan Beavers was the best thing to help them, say this team is sitting at just over 500 fighting for a playoff spot, I think we would have seen Dylan Beavers probably a month ago. I think we would have seen Beavers probably in mid-July. If this team needed an outfielder and they were competing, that's what you would have done. But when you're looking to help develop these guys, when you're looking to get the most out of it for an organizational as a whole, it made sense to, unfortunately for Dylan Beavers, have him sit in AAA until he's able to, if he takes off, help the team get a first-round compensation pick. Think about it. If they wait till the 15th and call these guys up, and then both of them finish, let's say they finish 1 and 2 in Rookie of the Year voting. Now, that is a little bit, I don't think that would happen, but that would be cool. You now have secured yourself 2 other first-round picks, and you can complain about Elias all you want. If he is still the GM, which I do not know, I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, in 2 years when Elias is, the GM. I don't know if Elias is going to be the GM in 2 years. But this team loves draft picks, and they've hit on a lot of draft picks. So if you give them 2 more draft picks, that's the way they're going to go. And I disagree. It wasn't a bad decision. It was a bad decision if they were competing right now and they needed help. I don't think trying to see if you can get a guy to keep rookie eligibility in 2026 of a wasted year? Because let's call it what it is. 2025, they wasted. This was a failure of a season. They're going to finish in the bottom 6, 7 of the league, most likely. They're not going to be, and I don't think so. I don't think his development is being stunted. He's 24 years old. I mean, it's pretty much the average age of these AAA guys, especially, guys coming out of college and everything. I don't think his development's been stunted. I think, could you have called him up maybe a few weeks ago? Yeah. I think he's probably been ready for about a few weeks, maybe a month or a little bit more. And if we were competing this year, I agree. If they were competing this year and Dylan Beavers was the right fielder or the left fielder you needed to kind of help the team and try to go for it, he would have been up. But in a wasted year, you're kind of not giving yourself the best opportunity. You can still have him get 120 at-bats in this year, 100 at-bats in this year, get that major league experience, and then go into next season with the ball rolling. So Dylan Beavers, I expect him to get almost every day starts. Basayo, it's everyday starts. And I think that's where you got to go with it. It's let these guys go out there and fail, because we've seen it so much. Last season, it was, Kobe Mayo's going to come up for the stretch run. Jackson Holliday's coming up for the stretch run. They're going to help us win it all. They're going to help us get over that hump again. And then they both struggled immensely. Why? Because it's really hard to play Major League Baseball. Because the difference between AAA and major leagues is kind of like going from low A to AAA immediately. Like if you're a good AAA pitcher, you're probably in the majors, Yeah. That's the thing, Beavers, and then Basayo. People forget that Basayo was hurt. Basayo has not been playing every day in the field. He's been moving all around. Basayo, he is exactly on path. If you would have asked anyone before this season, hey, what is the best route for Samuel Basayo? It was a September call-up. It was one of those things where the best case we talked about all the way back in April was, hey, if Samuel Basayo can come up mid-August, that's a win. That's a massive win. A massive win. And no, I'm not. It's the fact that it's not the pressure aspect. It's, okay, let's say you bring up Dylan Beavers a month ago. He struggles, he does his thing, or he dominates, does whatever, and then next year he wins Rookie of the Year, and you just cost yourself a draft pick. And Dylan Beavers, if you guys don't know, if you win Rookie of the Year, you lose a year on your contract. You're able to get a year to then go to free agency a year sooner. So the Orioles would get diddly squat out of it. It's a risk, and that's why the Orioles took the risk. You can agree with it or not. This was the correct call overall for the Orioles to try to help Dylan Beavers, to try to get him in the best situation possible, develop him to the best he can be, and now give him an opportunity. And I don't think Dylan Beavers has always been, a solid prospect. But I do sometimes think that, people forget that Dylan Beavers has batted 305 this year. Last year, Dylan Beavers batted 241 in Double-A in 119 games. Like, Dylan Beavers by no means was just knocking. I think people think for some reason that Dylan Beavers was like pounding on the door to come into for a long time, it was like, if Dylan Beavers works out, he works out, but he wasn't necessarily this top prospect. He has put together an absolutely incredible year and has skyrocketed. He's catapulted his value and where he stands in the organization. That wasn't the case when he was batting 241 with 15 homers last year. He had an OPS of 756 in Double-A. I think people for some reason believe that he was this can't miss prospect coming into the year. It's not the case. Dylan Beavers was a guy who had to put it all together, in which he has. You got to give him credit. It all came together this year, and it has been incredible to watch. But it all comes down to in the next probably 4 or 5 days, we're going to find out when these guys get here. And the biggest thing I will scream from the rooftop, they have to play. They have to play. And I'm not saying play once a week. I'm not saying play twice a week. I'm saying every dang day. Have to play every dang day because it doesn't help them to sit on the bench. Doesn't help them to sit on the bench. If you get these guys out there, you have to play. Yeah, and I think this is, you have teams like Anaheim and Sacramento throwing their prospect choices immediately. Yeah, for Sacramento, Nick Kurtz, guys like that, it's worked. You look at, let's look at Zach Neto, for who, 2, 3 years ago was drafted and came up almost immediately because he was so good defensively. It took him 2 years to get to the point where he is now a good shortstop, who he is a top echelon shortstop because he needed time to develop. Like, it probably wasn't the best move. He probably would have gotten there, maybe a little bit more confidence had he gone through the minors and not had to be thrown into that position of, oh, you were just in college, now you're in the majors, and we need you to produce. So if you're new to the channel, hit that like and subscribe button. Ryan Ripken Show. A little different today. Doing it by myself for the moment. Ryan will hopefully join in a little bit. Appreciate everyone who, if you enjoy the content, hit that like and subscribe button. Moving on, though, just a little bit. I want to keep it in baseball. And specifically, I want to talk about Tarek Skubal came on Foul Territory just a few days ago, actually yesterday. And it has been a big discussion recently in baseball about tipping pitches. And it feels like, it's become more and more prevalent recently. And a video surfaced a few days ago of the Red Sox clearly having the iPad out, and they found something and they were showing everyone, okay, if the pitcher has this, or this, that means this is coming. That means this is coming. That kind of what pitches, they're looking for. Oh, is the glove up a little bit more? Slider. Is it down by his waist a little bit more? Fastball. They're looking for little tips. Tipping pitches has always been a part of the game. But what Tarek Skubal talks about is maybe some things that are happening that are allowing teams to see tipping pitches a little bit better that he doesn't think are really the correct way to do it. So we'll watch that real fast and then react to it on the other side.
Very much on it as far as not tipping my pitches, in my bullpen work. There's one of our video guys watches every single throw I make in a bullpen, watches every throw I make in the game. And, we're very back and forth on tipping stuff or, making sure I'm not tipping pitches. So I'm very much, it's part of the game. It's part of the baseball game. If you don't want to do it, don't tip your pitches. I think that's pretty simple. And that is, I think that's a competitive advantage. You have guys at second base that can relay signs and, get location or get which pitch is coming. I think it's all fair game. The one I have a problem with is the first base coach and the third base coach that aren't in their box that they have. I don't know why they have a box if they can't just be in it, because sometimes they go way up the line and way up the other line to see things that you shouldn't be able to see when you're playing the game of baseball. So that's the one I have a problem with. And there's teams that do it. Boston's coach. They've had me before in Boston. Cleveland has had me before. Sandy Alomar at first base. But I'm very aware of what's going on and when that kind of stuff starts to happen. And I think as a team, we're pretty aware of it. We're watching and making sure nothing's going on. And teams like to do the fake tip stuff. Boston said they'd like to do the fake tip stuff, and we just make sure that there's nothing going on. But as far as getting the run signs from second base, and if the pitcher is doing something drastically different with their glove, or maybe they look down or something, or look down twice, it's always fastball. Like, I think that's fair game. I think that's part of the game of baseball. But like I said, the one I don't like is when the first base and third base coaches go way down the lines and are doing things that, if they want to do that, stay in the box.
So you hear from Tarek right there. They're tipping pitches sign stealing, stuff like that. It's a part of the game. It is. It is a part of baseball, whether you love it or you hate it, it's a part of baseball. And there are things that are fair game. I love that you brought that up. If you are egregiously tipping pitches where you look down twice and it's always a fastball, if maybe you're fiddling with your glove a little bit more on curveballs because you're trying to get the grip and they pick up on that, that's fair game. That is completely fair game. If you are doing something egregious, to where the other team is seeing, hey, if he's doing that, that's a fastball. If he's doing this, it's a changeup. That's fair game. I like they talked about, but why? There are things that cross that line of what he believes is fair game. And one of them, I agree, is the coaches, the base coaches. They have a box, and base coaches are supposed to stay in that box. They're not supposed to leave. I'm going to be very honest. I don't think, and you can correct me in the chat if I'm wrong, has anyone in the chat ever seen an umpire or anything like give a warning to base coaches? I've never really seen a stink made about, hey, umps be like, hey, you got to stay in your box. Maybe at times to stay, but I feel like I've never really seen that, like, hey, umps are really enforcing the box. Maybe it is. Maybe it is. I do kind of remember a Yankees thing, being about this, but I agree. I agree with Tarek, where if there are things that guys are doing that are blatant, you have every right to use that advantage because they are giving you that advantage. If it's something where coaches are now halfway down the line where they're not supposed to be, and they usually would not be able to see that, and maybe they're seeing from, you're sitting there as a lefty, and that first base coach is halfway down the line, and he's seeing, I'm seeing maybe the pitch grip, I'm seeing maybe what he's fiddling with in his glove, and he's relaying signs. That's different. Derek's saying, and I agree with him, that if you're outside, if the coach stays in the box and he's seeing it, you're making it once again blatantly obvious. I agree. That's on the pitcher. And he talked about Boston doing fake tipping stuff. It's all part of the game. You want to make the other team think you're tipping pitches, but maybe you're not. It's all around the strategy of baseball. But what I don't think is fair, especially to a pitcher, is when things that are not natural to baseball, maybe the first base or third base coach all the way down the line, signaling signs from a spot that he should not be able to view pitches from. Heck, I'll even give it to him. If you are standing on second base, how many times this season, I feel like we've seen it a ton this season, especially Kenley Jansen. Kenley Jansen does not mess with runners on second base. Kenley Jansen multiple times has just balked. Straight up intentionally balked. He'll sit there and drop the ball, just drop the ball, tell the runner to go to third. Why? Because a runner at second can maybe see in his glove, maybe signal to the batter, hey, this is coming. This is the pitch that's coming. Hey, before the pitch come, maybe it was the signs. You're relaying signs to the batter. That's all part of the game. If you're on second and you see the pitcher holding a two-seam fastball grip, why wouldn't you signal to your teammate, hey, two-seam fastball's coming? Part of the game. But, and there's ways around that. Balk him to third. Hey, how many times have we seen Kenley Jansen this season alone tell a guy go? Or he'll just step off 3 times, give the guy the automatic go ahead to third, because he would rather, especially if that run at second doesn't mean anything. That's part of the game. Signal stealing and, tipping pitches and picking up on tipping pitches is all part of the game. I mean, we've seen guys like Chase Burns in his second start get shelled, absolutely shelled. And the Yankees were like, yeah, he was tipping pitches. It's part of the game, but I agree with Tarek. When it comes to doing unnatural things in the game, things you are not allowed to do, which is mainly his point was when coaches are not where they're allowed to be and are picking up on pitches, he's saying that's where he's like, hey, we got to stop that. And I agree. That's not a natural. You are supposed to stay in your box. It does not get tightly managed, it does not get tightly officiated, but that is what it's supposed to be. So, whether we want to talk about, is it ethically right to, steal signs, all of that stuff, if you are legally doing it, it's part of the game. But if you are in places you should not be, like that's the thing with the Astros. Everyone wants to talk about like, oh, the Astros, the Astros, and I saw this tweet the other day, the Astros sign stealing scandal kind of put this weird stench and like, I guess I don't even know the word I'm looking for. This weird idea around sign stealing that it is super illegal, and if you do it, you should get suspension, all this stuff. What the Astros were doing was they were using cameras that they were not supposed to be using. They were using digital cameras or, live feeds, whatever it may be, to use to steal signs. And that's when they were knocking on trash cans. They were doing all that. That was not legal. But if you're tipping pitches, if you are naturally sitting at second base and you see a sign, you see what the guy's throwing, and you signal in to your batter, that's legal. That's baseball. Do a better job, covering it. That's when I see, talk about Ken. I think Kenley's the best example right here. If the guy's on second, you don't want him stealing your signs. You got to get the guy out at home. See ya. Go to third base. You're not doing that. And yeah, the Astros literally had camera angles to figure out. Like they were going above and beyond past the realm of this is legal. Completely past the realm of that. So if I enjoy everyone's opinion on it, and I agree 100% with Tarek. If you are legally finding ways that they are tipping pitches, if you are legally stealing signs, and you're not doing anything that you're not supposed to do, that's baseball, part of the game. It's no different than in football. If hey, whenever they call whatever as an audible, oh, that means a run to the right. If you just know that, if you didn't steal the signs illegally, maybe like in Michigan, then that's legal. Like that's part of the game. How many times have we seen, keeping it football? They've talked about Roquan Smith, who studies so much film, a Ray Lewis back in the day, where Peyton Manning and them would say they would call an audible and Ray would start yelling stuff and the entire team would shift to almost exactly where they needed to be to stop that play. That wasn't that they were, this is illegal. They can't know what we're about to run. They've watched film. They know what they're doing. They know what that call means. If you're doing it legally, that's a part of it. Omaha, baby. Omaha. And actually, speaking of Omaha, and if you're new to the channel, hit that like and subscribe button if you enjoy these conversations. Ryan Ripken Show live every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Not a little bit different today. I'm virtual. Ryan is not here at the moment, but we will be continuing a rather normal schedule from here on out. Samuel, I wanted to get to this. Zach, what are your thoughts about the team in Little League World Series Regionals doing that signaling at second base? This is where it's different because it's a Little League World Series. Like it's different because of the fact that it's 11, 12-year-olds. Like I guess my whole thing is I'm not going to sit here and say if it's illegal or not illegal. I don't know. I know that the umpires talk to them. I don't think. I'm going to look it up. You guys are going to watch me look this up live. Oh, here we go. I guess it's deemed unsportsmanlike in the Little League World Series. I guess they can eject guys from the game, is what I'm seeing. All right, so this is what I just saw. They're supposed to get a warning and then get tossed. If that's the rules, then that's the rules. Then you can't steal signs in Little League. And I'll be honest, if you're stealing signs in Little League, I don't want to say get better, but like how are kids develop? Like the majors, it's trying to get every advantage you can. In Little League, it's also, yes, it's about winning at that point, in the Little League World Series, but it's also about development of kids. And if you're getting to the Little League World Series because you are every one of your players is stealing signs, is knows what's coming, and that's how they're getting on, that's how they're putting up these runs. I feel like you're also hurting the kids' development. Like, because when you're in high school, when you get to college and you don't know what pitch is coming, how are you going to do? So I think it's a little different with the Little League World Series. I'm kind of I'm against that. I'm going to say I don't know. Obviously, the rules say you should not do it, so I'm going to stick with that. Don't steal signs in the Little League World Series. Like, can we not steal signs in the Little League World Series? Because honestly, it feels like one of those things where it's like, why are we doing this? You know, and I agree. I'm as competitive as it gets. I just don't. I don't think stealing signs, especially if it's led by coaches or whatever, I don't think it's helping you. I don't think it's helping these players get better. I don't think it's helping them develop in the slightest. If your goal is just to win the Little League World Series, I guess that helps you. If you want to steal signs to get there, but I think there's a reason that they don't like it. So, the channel, hit that like and subscribe button. Gonna move, keep it in baseball, but I wanted to move to the hottest team in baseball, the Milwaukee Brewers. And let me tell you something. There's hot, there's on fire than it is the Milwaukee Brewers on their second 10-game winning streak of the season. They currently sit at 74-44, 30 games above 500. 30 games above 500. And in fact, they are playing so well that they have a 5-game lead for the best record in all of Major League Baseball, not just the NL, all of Major League Baseball. The Phillies are actually 5 games behind them, with Toronto 5.5, and then Detroit at 6. Man, if you have not been watching the Brew Crew recently, it has been a treat. They're one of those teams where we have come on this show consistently and talked about there are just those teams that get the job done. It feels like they're never going out and making the big splashes. They're never going out and making the massive signings. They traded for Christian Yelich a while ago and gave him a very nice extension after the MVP season. They did that. But besides that, it's like, they traded Corbin Burns. They traded Devin Williams, their all-star closer on the offseason, to the Yankees. And they got Terang in return, who has been killing it for them. Also got Nestor Cortez, who they then shipped off to the Padres. But the Brewers are, can I say they're outraying the Rays? Like, is that a thing that I can say? Are we cool with me saying that they're outraying the Rays? Because we always talk about the Rays are going to send out the most random, the most random players of all time. When, you look at their roster on opening day, you see 5 or 6 players and you're like, okay, I don't know if the Rays, what they're doing here with that roster. And then those guys, let's talk about the Jonathan Arandas, those guys that are coming out here and becoming stars, getting the job done and becoming these big time stars, even after they're trading away the Randy Arozarenas and all of them. The Tyler Glasnow. I saw a crazy stat that Shane McClanahan Wander Franco has played for the Rays more recently than Shane McClanahan. Man, that was weird. A weird thing to think about. But it feels like, the Brewers are the Rays of the NL, but I think I almost want to say that they're the team. Like, I almost want to start referring to the Rays as the Brewers of the AL. Because we always talk about the Rays, they just find ways. They're always finding ways. And for a while this year, they were doing that as well. But overall, this Brew Crew team, I don't know. I'm not going to sit here and say, they're the team to beat. That I don't even think they're in the top 5 for World Series odds right now. But what they are is finding ways to win. Down 5-0 to the Mets does not matter. Does not matter. And we want to talk about real fast when it comes to being down 5-0 against the Mets, then coming back to win it 6-7 or 7-6. Mets are now also on a 7-game losing streak. It is becoming a very wide, I don't want to say wide open race in the NL because I don't think, I'm not sure the Mets were really at the moment a massive threat. I knew someone was going to. As soon as I accidentally said 6-7 instead of 7-6, I knew it was getting in the chat. I knew someone was going to find a way. But when you look at now just the entire league, I mean, let's look at the standings overall. The Brewers have a 6.5 game lead in their own division. They're 40-20 at home. So that's big for home field advantage. If you're winning 4 games, or I guess you're winning 2 games for every one at home, that's going to help you win series in the playoffs. So you look at the fact that the Brewers, without really yes, I'm going to call Christian Yelich a star because he is. But I don't want people to think or pretend like Christian Yelich has been this superstar over the past 2 years. He was at one point. But let me bring up Christian Yelich's stats over the past few years because this is a resurgence for him. A complete resurgence. Last year, he started to put it together again, batting .315. But he had those years where after the 2019 MVP, they had 205, 248, 252, started to put it together again, 278, but wasn't really, 19 homers. Last year, just 11 homers, only played in 73 games. It felt like Christian Yelich just wasn't able to get back to that peak that he was at. This season, it's all bets are off. Yes, only batting .259, but for a little bit, he was the hottest batter in all of baseball. He has 22 home runs to lead the team, 75 RBIs, 46 walks. He's striking out a little bit at 129, 66 runs. He's doing what they need. This is even on a down-ish year for him again. He is once again the focal point. He is the leader of that clubhouse. And when you talk to people in Milwaukee, they bring up the fact that Christian Yelich, he understands the pressure on him having that contract. And he understands that this team, they need him. And he goes out there, he works, they were saying he works every day to try to prove that contract is worth it because that's a big deal. A very, very, very big deal that he got. Let me look up the official terms of it. It was a 7-year, $185 million contract, which back when he signed it in 2020 to buy out his final few years of arbitration, then go up, was a pretty big deal. It was a pretty big deal. He's now sitting at 33 years old, maybe on the back nine of his career, but I hate to be this guy. Part of me is waiting for it to end in Milwaukee, but I've said that, every year they seem to they have a good season and then come up short in the playoffs. You go roster for roster with the rest of the NL, the Brewers do not have the guys for it, but they keep winning. And that's all you can ask for. This team is not going out there with this is not the massive. Now let's look up where the Brewers rank for payroll in 2025. Brewers are 20th in payroll. To give you, and this is 2025. Yeah, 2025. 20th in payroll. This is correct. This is, 23rd. Sorry, that was active on the 26th man because it takes away injuries. Total, they're 23rd in payroll. Give you an example. The Orioles are 17. The Orioles have spent $44 million more on this roster than the Brewers have. Brewers are finding a way. And sometimes you just need those scrappy teams. And I could not agree with this more, Jeff. Chemistry still means something. Yeah. Chemistry and a group of guys that want to all fight for the same thing, that want to go out there, lay everything on the line to try to win and come together and win under any means necessary. That's important. We talk about 2023 with the Orioles. Rookie gunner, Adley in his first full season. That was a young team that, in all honesty, should probably have at best won 90 games, 87 to 90 games. Kyle Gibson, with an above 4 ERA, won the most games for them. How? Because they just fought. And that's what this Brewer team does. Down 5-0 against the Mets. Fight, 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 come back, win, 9-game win streak at the time. And then they extend it last night to 10. Yeah. Bryce Ryan. It's the guys, and this is where I say it's like they outraised the Rays. Everyone was like, "Why?" Okay, so they're trading, Devin Williams, all these guys. So okay, they're not competing this year. Craig Counsell, their big time manager. Remember 2 years ago, jumped ship. He went to Chicago. He went across to the rivals. It, team chemistry and just finding ways to win no matter what is way more important than anyone really than I think people genuinely think. Obviously talent matters, but that clubhouse atmosphere, that getting, Buck Showalter came on this show and talked about it in regards to the Orioles, but it can be said for a young team, that's fighting like the Brewers. It's you get a group going and snowballing in the right direction, crazy things can happen. And I would say 2 10-game win streaks is pretty crazy. That's 2 win streaks this season in which they have gone 10 games. Like, I don't think, like, we remember, what was it? Was it 23? Was it 23 or 22 with the 10-game win streak? Winning 10 straight games is hard. It was 22. It's 22. Winning 10 games in a row is very, very, very hard. But the Brewers are finding ways, even without the most talented roster in the world. Maybe not with the Otanis, not with the Mookie Betts. They don't have 3 straight Hall of Famers like the Dodgers. They don't have that massive, doomsday lineup like the Padres. They're not spending the money like the Yankees. They don't have a bunch of top number 1 prospects like the Red Sox. They're not spending $700 million on a player like the Mets. They're not the Phillies, who have Harper, Schwarber, Turner, Castellanos, who I know is having a bad year. They're going out there and just finding ways to win. So, if you're new to the channel, hit that like and subscribe button. The Ryan Ripken Show here, presented by our friends over at Merit Clubs. If you're new to the channel, hit that like and subscribe button. A little different today, as you can tell. I'm sure you can tell by this. This is a green screen. Well, not a green screen. It's a virtual background. I'm not in studio, and Ryan should be joining us in a little bit. But I want to keep this show rolling. We want to still go live for you all at 2:30 to kind of keep on some sort of, schedule. I know we start late. I said start at 2:30. I started 2:45. I'm sorry. Hand up. That's on me. I'm not going to lie. I was heating up tacos. Full transparency. I was heating up tacos. It's Taco Tuesday. So, uh, did want to really fast though head up to our friends at Hollywood Casino in Charlestown Races in West Virginia. Bam, nailed it. Solo, hitting the solo, and real fast tacos, chicken taco. I had to get some chicken tacos. Had to get some chicken tacos, but wanted to visit our friends up at Hollywood Casino, Charlestown Races in West Virginia. We're going to be up there for an event on the first day of the NFL season. Lots of fun guests joining us there. So you're not going to want to miss that. So much good is going to be happening. We'll be live during the 1:00 games. Obviously, the Ravens will go play the Bills later that night in Sunday Night Football. So we'll be leading you up through the games in the early slate, previewing that, talking probably some fantasy football, talking about what we're seeing, place a few bets. Don't mind if I do. And we're going to have some fun. So make sure to tune into that. If you're ever in Charlestown, go hit up our friends at Hollywood Casino in West Virginia. Beautiful. I'm going to say it. That was beautiful. Way to go, Zach. Way to go, Zach. And today, I am taking another bet. He destroyed the Orioles. He broke my heart plenty of times playing us there last week. And man, is this guy absolutely on fire. I'm taking Kyle Schwarber, 2+ bases. I believe that over the last, I think I'm 6 for my last 7 bets. We came up just short on Jarren Duran. We needed 2+ bases. He gave us 1. But we're back. We're getting back on the horse. Why not? Kyle Schwarber, 2+ bases. Lock it in. We're getting back in the win column, baby. And as always, if you or someone you know has a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER or our friend Rocco DeSangro. But once again, one last time, if you want to watch us up at Hollywood Casino, Charlestown Races in West Virginia, come up and meet us on, gosh, what would that be? What is the first day of the season? I definitely should not. I should have known this. Now I'm going to have to edit the promo, On the 7th. Join us on September 7th as we're up there at Hollywood Casino, Charlestown Races in West Virginia. Come hang out. It's a fantastic time. You will probably be able to watch us take our celebratory shot. We always have to. And that means you'll probably get to watch Kevin take 7 sips in a singular shot because, hey, we don't judge. If you get the shot down, you get the shot down. It doesn't matter how many sips it takes for you to do it, Kevin. Which also, as I'm leaving that promo, Kevin Oestreicher, 6-year anniversary on Locked On Ravens today. I don't think he's watching, but congratulations, Kevin. Proud of you. 6 years at Locked On Ravens. That's pretty darn cool. Pretty darn cool. You know what else is pretty darn cool when we talk about the Baltimore Ravens? Ray Lewis, Michael Phelps, back at practice today. That's a little fun. The fun little group to have, especially, obviously, Michael Phelps, Maryland legend, Maryland world legend, swimming legend, Olympic champion, just every accolade that you could possibly get. Literally every accolade you could possibly get. Chris, this is crazy. You know what? There's been a lot of slander on I'm just saying, if we're going flow, I get it. It doesn't start great. It doesn't start at the right, but if we're going flow for flow, I got Kevin beat on the lettuce. If we're looking for something that hangs out the helmet, I got Kevin beat on that. I gotta say it. I had to get that off my chest. But Ray Lewis and company at practice today, it just feels like it's one of those things where every time Ray Lewis is at Ravens practice, there's a different energy in the room. Different feeling. Ray Lewis, the leader, the true GOAT of the Baltimore Ravens back at practice. And really after a very fun I guess, yeah, we haven't talked since the preseason game after a very fun preseason game with a lot of stars kind of showing, especially guys that you wanted to see. There were guys that you wanted to see spurts from, even if it was just a little bit off the rip. We're talking Keaton Mitchell. Keaton Mitchell, the burst look there. He does not need to go and play again. I do not think that he needs to play again at all. Rest him up. I saw the burst. I saw it. We're good. Rest up. We'll see you on September 7th, Keaton. LeJohntay Wester. LeJohntay Wester, baby. We want to talk about it. There was a Ravens punt returner competition for about a half a quarter. There was a punt return competition for the Baltimore Ravens for about half a quarter, and then LeJohntay Wester said, "Hold my Gatorade." You thought that was a fun 17-yard return, broke some tackles, 17 yards, making something out of nothing. And Justin, I see your comment real fast. We're going to get into that because, of course, they do that as we start moving on to talking about football. Well, LeJohntay said, "Hey, that 17-yard return, that was pretty cool. Made something out of nothing. Probably should have gotten no yards, but made something happen. How about the entire team converge on me? We got traffic out of the way, traffic that makes the DC Baltimore Parkway look light. Got some traffic in the middle of the field. Doesn't matter. Does not matter. LeJohntay Wester to the house. Intoxicant. 1,000%. Year 3 of Bunker. I mean, Lamar Jackson and company, they've had two of the best offensive seasons. Lamar's probably should be 2-time MVP under Todd Monken. I trust Todd Monken more than I've trusted an offensive coordinator for the Baltimore Ravens, and probably since Gary Kubiak. We want to take it back. Gary Kubiak. That's what I'm talking about. I think this is, we can talk about it. But, the playoffs, I think that is a organizational problem. I don't think it's Todd Monken. I think it's they just aren't living up to the expectation. They aren't playing well. They abandoned the run. It's little things. I think that, and I don't think that's on Monken completely. I think that's on Harbaugh. I think that's on the entire coaching staff, the game plan going in. I trust Todd Monken. I don't think he's the issue. I think at the end of the day, this organization, they need to get past the fact of, in the playoffs, as soon as we fall behind, we have to start airing it out. You need to stick to the run game, especially with Derrick Henry, and you need to find ways to establish the run and win defensively. Let Lamar Jackson do Lamar Jackson things when needed, but stick to your game plan. I agree. If they can do that, I think this is the year. I'll say it. If they don't win this year, I don't know when they will. And I hate to put that pressure on them, but when you look at all the players they have, obviously you also, you have Oweh on the final year of his contract. You have Jair, 1-year deal. You have guys coming up. Guys are getting older. The cap starts really crunching down. I think this is the year. They got to win it this year. If they don't win it this year, I hate to say this, I'm not sure. I think we're going to take a step back for about 2 years, and then they'll have maybe another 2-year window with Lamar. But they need to make that run this year. Unless, knock on wood. I think this is wood. Yeah, that's wood. Knock on wood, no injuries. There are no excuses. No excuses for this Ravens team. I did want to get back to this. And Duran, what's up, my guy? I know we just started football. But I do want to. We just had some breaking news for the Orioles. And news that we knew was coming, and it's smart. Felix Bautista and Zach Eflin have officially been shut down for the 2025 season. They will not They will not pitch again for the Orioles in 2025. And Zach Eflin, who knows, may not pitch for the Orioles again. I would actually personally give Zach Eflin a 1-year prove-it deal. He's been here. I think he is reliable. When he's not injured, I think he is one of our best pitchers. Felix Bautista, this was the right move. The second that they said Felix was feeling weird and he was going on the IL and you were 12 games under 500, yeah, you don't pitch him again. You do not. We saw last year what life is like when Felix Bautista is not out there, when you have to go to closer by committee. We talked to Jonathan Papelbon right before the playoffs last season, and he kind of hurt my feelings a little bit, but was very abrupt with it. He said, you can't win with closer by committee. And because it hurt my feelings, because that's what the Orioles were doing last year. That's what they had to go with Sir Anthony or Soto or maybe Eric Cano at times. Toss in Craig Kimbrell every once in a while. Keegan, they had to go by committee. You can't win a World Series with closer by committee, or it's very dang hard to. So when you're not going to win it this year, shut Bautista down, protect him at all costs, and tell him, dude, my friend, you massive human, rest up for 2026, and we will see you in March, I guess late February. Yeah, and no, it's not, this is not something positive by any means. Like, you would rather them say this is just them shutting it down. But the sole focus right now is set on Felix Bautista needing to be out there for 2026. That is the main priority. It does not matter this year. Even if he was able to pitch, you shouldn't do it. Zach Eflin, obviously shutting him down. We got some more positive news about Wells, Suarez, and Bradish. Hopefully all could be back in the next month, which would be fun. A little too late. Actually, would be a very fun rotation if you add in Wells, you add in Suarez, you add in Bradish to, obviously, Trevor Rogers is pitching well. Sagano's been pitching well as of lately. Dean's been pitching well as of recently. I mean, that's a more fun. That's a major league rotation. That's a dang good major league rotation there. I think this is the right move. Bautista looks like maybe they were forced a little bit. I don't think would be able to pitch the rest of the year, but do not rush it. Do not do anything drastic. Don't push things. Let him, his sole focus needs to be on getting ready for 2026. Yeah. This is what stinks. The rotation, if you would have had, let's just say, Bradish, let's say everyone's healthy. And I know this is a crazy thing because that's not ever going to really happen, that you have everyone healthy. But if you would have had Bradish, Grayson, Eflin, then you add in Tyler Wells, you add in Trevor Rogers pitching the way he is, Dean Kramer pitching well, Sugano was lights out, Eflin, or I already said Eflin. This team would have had a dang good rotation. A very nice rotation. Very, very nice rotation. And that's why it's just disappointing. It's disappointing when you get to the point of, hey, it's disappointing when you have to think about what could have been. Because, in the years when you're bad, but nothing really, like, if everyone was healthy and they were bad, you're like, dang, that sucks. But when you sit there and you've lost your ace of the rotation with Bradish, the guy who was supposed to step up and be the ace in Grayson doesn't pitch a single pitch this season. Tyler Wells and Albert Suarez. Albert Suarez, like, I think people forget how big Albert Suarez was last year. He had, a 3.7 ERA? Where is it? Oh, he had a 3.7 ERA on the dot. Sometimes I know baseball. Like, it's not, sometimes I know ball. I don't all the time. But and yep, Suarez pitching tonight in bulk relief in Norfolk. So we'll see how that goes. Big Al last year was absolute dynamite. probably the biggest success story of last season was finding either him or Ryan O'Hearn. Both those guys stepping up last year was just awesome. Yeah, I did. You know, you know. Oh, sorry, double A. That's on me. Tell me. I always see Chesapeake now. I I know it doesn't mean much, but them changing Bowie to Chesapeake just throws me off. Yeah, Bautista has a significant shoulder injury. Team will have another update later this week. It's a tough go. It's a tough go. But if you're new to the channel, hit that like and subscribe button. Ryan Ripken Show looking a little different today. Zach Bollinger taking you live for the moment. Rip may be joining in a little bit, but we are going to keep this thing moving. I already talked about the Ravens a little bit, but I wanted to go to more of the NFL news and kind of around the NFL. I know this was out a few days ago, and it is continuously becoming more and more of a story. But let's take it to Pittsburgh in the NFL with the hold-in. Steelers all-pro defensive tackle Cameron Hayward hasn't fully participated in practices yet. Hayward is scheduled to make $14.75 million this season, with $13.45 million of that already having been earned in roster bonus in March. He's seeking a raise, especially I think he is in the 30s or 20s for what his deal would put him at in that position. And Cam Hayward has pretty much told the Steelers, hey, I deserve more. And let me tell you something, he does. You know, Cameron Hayward has been that guy for the Steelers. He has been that anchor. You can talk about TJ Watt before this, the trade, Minka Fitzpatrick. They've had those stars in the back end who, or the rushers, Highsmith, all those guys. They've had those guys who always get, the accolades, the guys who are always going out there. And it feels like are the superstars. Cam Hayward has been one of, if not the best interior defensive lineman over the past, and I'm not talking about, obviously the Aaron Donalds and stuff are on a whole different level. But when you talk about consistently being extremely good and all pro, Cameron Hayward has kind of been the glue of that defense. He's been the attitude. He's been the leader of that defense. And for a Pittsburgh Steelers team that, love it or not, there are expectations this year. You have a 41, 42-year-old Aaron Rodgers. Like, this is not Cameron Hayward's getting up there, TJ Watt's getting up there. You got Jalen Ramsey, all these guys, Darius Slay, they're getting up there. This is not a Steelers team that is built for a 2 or 3 year window. They need to, I don't know if they are built enough to go win it this year. Personally, I don't think so. But if they have any sort of chance, they need Cameron Hayward on that team, and they need him playing. What that Steelers team cannot afford right now is for Cameron Hayward to sit out, to miss any sort of time, especially for non-injury. Injuries happen. But if a guy is healthy, he needs to be playing. If he is healthy, the Steelers need him to be playing, because if he is not, you can tell. When the Ravens are running the ball, when Derrick Henry's back there, you can tell when Cam Hayward is there and when he is not. He is a disruptive force in the pass game, in the run game. He brings an attitude to Pittsburgh's defense. He is that leader. He is that leader. I'm saying, he's a no-show in playoffs. It's hard for me to say that a defensive tackle is a no-show in the playoffs. Because, they're such a gritty position. Like, he could be getting double teams and all that source stuff. It's so hard to tell just off like, oh, he's, disappearing. He's not getting those big stats in the playoffs. And defensive tackles, it's hard to look at them and tell, okay, are they disappearing? It is a very thankless job. It's a thankless position. Nnamdi Madubuike, let's take it back to the Ravens. Last year, his stats were down, and some people were like, hey, he's he's having a worse season. It's because I think, got double teamed the third most in football. People have to show up. People have to show up. And yeah, I mean, Aaron Donald's one of the all-time greats. like, yeah, I get that, but like, Aaron Donald is a specimen we have not really seen in football. Like, he was a whole different animal. There's good defensive tackles, and then, they're great defensive tackles, and then there's Aaron Donald. Aaron Donald could win games by himself from the defensive line position. No, I think we can talk about other guys. Maybe Chris Jones and stuff. I would say is more on that line of like he's a big impactful player when it matters. But Aaron Donald, I mean, you could triple team Aaron Donald at times, and we've seen it. Quadruple team him, he's got to find a way to impact the play. Now, Aaron Donald is a specimen that this league has not seen before, and I'm not sure how many more of those types of guys we're going to see going forward. That's the truth. That guy was a different specimen altogether. We also have in the NFC East, you have Micah Parsons and Terry McLaurin. Terry McLaurin is still not practicing for the Washington Commanders. He is sitting there. There's the picture from actually Grant Paulson, friend of the show, former guest on the show. Dane Daniels and Terry McLaurin. Picture of them standing on the sideline together. Obviously, Jaden Daniels is in full gear. He is practicing, and Terry is just in shorts and a sweatshirt. We've talked about it before, and I'll talk about it again on this show. It is malpractice if the Washington Commanders do not get this deal done with Terry McLaurin. You cannot let the guy, and I know people will say it like, oh, being there through bad years shouldn't mean anything. Like that doesn't get you money in contracts. In Washington, there's a difference. He through those horrific years, he was still that leader. It wasn't like, oh, he was just clocking in, clocking out, he was the leader of that team. And he's still the leader of that team in a lot of ways. They cannot lose him for any time. They cannot have him, he's requested trades. They can't have him going elsewhere. Terry McLaurin, you need to lock up the centerpieces, the leaders of your team. It's as simple as that. Now, they're going to have to figure something out. I think Terry wants $33 million plus a year, or over that $30 million threshold. And it's hard to say that he doesn't deserve that. I think they will figure something out. I would put in that probably high end 20s. Maybe he gets the deal for 28, 29, close to 30. But if you're the Commanders, and if there are any Commanders fans in the chat, please let me know your thoughts. I would love to know, as a fan of them, kind of what everyone is thinking. Because if I'm a Commanders fan, this is worrisome. Because this is the big year for Jaden Daniels. There's a whole year of tape out on him. That year, too, we saw with C.J. Stroud. You can take that step back and have to get that momentum going again. The year two, the sophomore slump is very much a thing. How do you help against that? Well, they went out and got Deebo Samuel. They added to the line. You go get Laramie Tunsil to protect your stars, and you take very nice steps forward. A way to negate all of that, the Deebo, Laramie Tunsil, all of that, building this nice roster to help him, is if you lose your star wide receiver. And I'm not talking from injury. I'm talking you lose your star wide receiver because you didn't want to sign him. Or not, you didn't want to sign him, but you didn't sign him and you didn't extend him. It just feels like this is such a big. It feels like this off season for them was so important, and I think they've done a really good job. I think they're a little older. I think that's definitely an issue. They're definitely an older team, even with Jaden Daniels at the helm. But I think if you're going to try to win something, and I think that Jaden Daniels, if you follow this show, you know my opinion. I think Jaden Daniels is a top 5 quarterback already. I do. I think in no, well, he's 5. He's number 5. I think you can go no specific order. You can put Allen, Burrow, Lamar, Mahomes. That's 1 through 4. If that is not your 1 through 4, I don't know what to tell you. I put Jaden Daniels at 5. Me personally. You can put, I know some people want Stafford there. Some people maybe a Herbert because Mr. What Ifs. You can put some guy. I love Jaden Daniels. I really do. I think he is already in that upper echelon. But we said the same thing about CJ Stroud last year. And then he had a massive sophomore slump. How do you, like I said, counteract that? You keep your stars around him. Keep your stars around him. What's important. And especially when you have a guy like Terry McLaurin who has done everything to earn that contract extension, you need to give it to him. Have to give it to him. You have to give your leader the face of your franchise. Yes, Jaden Daniels is now the quarterback. He's QB1. He is the face. But when you talk about the Washington Commanders, usually people are thinking Terry McLaurin. He's been the guy for the past 6 years. The quarterback's always going to get the fame, but Terry McLaurin is the one that held that down, who kept them somewhat. They gave Washington fans something to watch. No matter how bad they were, at least Terry McLaurin was going for 1,000 yards. At least Terry McLaurin was doing his thing. Now it's time to reward him for sitting through a lot of bad years. Now you have an opportunity to be a legit threat in the NFC. Legit threat. And you have a starting quarterback who now has a year of tape out on him, and you need to help him. Need to help him. I think this is the right thing to do is to just get the job done. And you need to do it fast. Because you cannot have Terry McLaurin's first time being on a practice field be week 1. Because you will see the effects of that. You can talk about, oh, Terry's Terry. Like, he's going to go out there. He knows the system. He's in the meetings, all that. It's very different. Going and working out is very different. You can say you're in shape. You're doing all this. You're doing this, that, and the other. You can say all that. Football game shape is very different. Very, very, very different. So if I'm the Washington Commanders, I am doing everything in my power to make sure that Terry McLaurin is one in Washington. You cannot trade him. I know he requested a trade. That cannot happen. You can't trade him. Can't trade him. He has to be out there. Help him help Jaden Daniels. So if you're new to the channel, hit that like and subscribe button. A little bit different today. This is the Ryan Ripken Show. Still live Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. So make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. I'm Zach Bollinger, taking over for the day. But we still want to talk about all things. And yeah, don't worry. We're getting Micah Parsons. That's where we're going next. We're staying in the NFC East, and we're going to our friends out in Dallas with Micah Parsons, or Michael Parsons, if you ask Jerry Jones, which might be the issue, part of the issue. This looks like a fractured relationship. If you read Micah Parsons' trade request, Terry McLaurin requested a trade. Fact. I do not expect Terry McLaurin to be elsewhere. Lamar Jackson, 3 years ago, requested a trade. Fact. It was a strategy to help get a deal. So many teams go out there, or so many top players will request trades as a way to try to get more money. That is not what this is. I truly believe that Michael Parsons feels like he was wronged by the Cowboys. He does not like the things that they've said. He feels like they've talked bad about him. They've negotiated unfairly, stuff like that. If you read his trade request, it read more of someone who is so deeply disappointed and hurt and wants to start over somewhere else. This did not feel like a negotiation tactic. This felt like someone who is tired of Jerry Jones and tired of playing in Dallas and all of that, who wants to be somewhere else. And the Cowboys can't do anything but blame themselves. The Cowboys have screwed themselves over and over and over again. They waited. They've waited for everyone. They waited for quarterbacks to get their deal before extending Dak when they could have a year or two earlier and saved millions. They waited for more and more wide receivers to sign bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger deals before they finally negotiated with CeeDee Lamb and got him extended when they could have done it the offseason before, or even Breyer, and got saved millions and millions. And what did they do? They waited on Micah Parsons. They've watched player after player after player get massive extensions. TJ Watts, all of those guys, that top echelon guys. So now suddenly, quote the wire, price of a brick has gone up exponentially. Micah Parsons is going to become the richest edge rusher in NFL history, and it's going to be by a good margin. And he was always going to do that, but becoming the richest pass rusher in NFL history was a lot cheaper a few last offseason and the offseason before that than it is now. It is a heck of a lot more expensive now. And once again, the Cowboys can't blame anyone but themselves. They have sat here and repeatedly for multiple players over multiple offseason, waited and waited and waited, and it has done nothing but bite them in the butt. You know, it has done absolutely nothing but bite them in the butt. They could have had these guys all signed probably two off seasons ago. I think he will. I think he gets more than one. I genuinely do. What did Schefter just say? I think I don't think he's going to be a. Definitely don't think he's going to be a Cowboy this year. And you can tell by the fact of they asked Jerry Jones if he was confident that Michael Parsons was going to be on the field week one, and he straight up said no. He said not at all. Said he was not confident. That that's telling in and of itself. I don't think there's a relationship that can be repaired in Dallas. I think Micah Parsons will be playing elsewhere in 2025, and I hope he is. Because my biggest fear is with a talent like Micah Parsons, who is so much fun to watch, can wreck a game. As a football fan, I enjoy watching play. I enjoy watching him play, rush the passer, the things he can do. My biggest fear is that he does not play in 2025 because of this. I've seen these photoshops all the time. I don't know how they'd afford it. Like, listen, my guy would be over the moon if they found Micah Parsons. They found a way to get him. This year goes to a complete. You need to win. I don't see Michael Parsons in Baltimore. It would be super fun. I just don't. I just don't see it. I gotta blame. I have to blame the Cowboys on this. I don't think that Micah Parsons is in the wrong. I don't. If you're new to the channel, hit that like and subscribe button. Ryan Ripken Show. We go live every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Presented by our friends over at Merit Clubs. Always keeping us, a little fit. Got to actually head over there in a little bit to maybe hit some chest. Maybe hit some chest. You never know. Someone's got to outbench Rocco. Someone's got to do it. So maybe it's going to be me. But appreciate our sponsors and our friends over at Merit. We're going to be doing a whole heck of a lot more with them over the coming year. So make sure to stay tuned for more shenanigans, more workout videos, whether it be Ryan actually doing workout videos or me attempting to do workout videos. And of course, our awesome Discord. I will get that link in just a second so that we can, if you are not already, we have a free Discord, an incredible community that I would love if everyone would like to join here. Putting the link in now. We currently have 272 members. So Discord link right there. Had to make sure that it was the correct one because Kevin at one point put our other Discord in that we used to discuss the show. That was a whole thing. But just a little bit more around the NFL and just kind of news in general. Taylor Swift announced her new album on Travis Kelce's podcast. That podcast with Taylor Swift is going to be absolutely unreal. I bet it probably does 15 million in views the first week, probably 10 to 15 million. That episode will probably be one of the most watched podcasts episodes. I'm not going to say ever, but I could see that probably being for this year up there in the top 3 for any podcast. Taylor Swift joining the New Heights podcast. So Taylor Swift announced her new album on it, which I will just say, if 3 years ago you would have told us that Taylor Swift was announcing her new albums on a podcast with Travis and Jason Kelce, I think everyone would be like, what? Taylor Swift is on a podcast with Travis and Jason Kelce. It's a weird time. But it's an awesome time for sports fans, for sports podcast fans. And if you're a fan of New Heights, I think they're just going to continue. They're killing it over there. And yeah, first time the girlfriends ever wanted to watch a sports podcast. It's going to be fun. I think, I'm not sure when it officially drops or if it has already, but that is going to be one of the biggest podcasts of the year, especially. Also, I'm seeing Jordan Love is getting a procedure on his ligament in his left thumb. Suffered the injury in Green Bay's preseason opener. This is why I don't like having starting quarterback play. Team is hoping that he can return to practice next week. He's expected to be ready for the regular season opener. Yeah. I think they made it drops tomorrow. I'm saying, it took them worldwide. That's for sure. It made, especially Travis and Jason Kelce, it took them from being kind of like American, big celebrities, everyone knows them here, to now worldwide. Everyone knows Travis and Jason Kelce. They have just become these massive, bigger than I ever thought they could be kind of figures. But yeah, appreciate everyone tuning in. Probably going to wrap up here in the next few minutes. We will have the crew all back together tomorrow for your regularly scheduled Ryan Ripken show. We also have Kevin and Zach react tonight after the Orioles take on the Seattle Mariners. Dog Training Plus. Yeah, we talked about it a little bit with Bautista and Eflin before, but I will dive in much deeper into that topic later tonight after the Orioles game. Orioles take on the Mariners at 6:35. So go check that out, Kevin and Zach React. If you don't already, would really appreciate it if you go subscribe over there live after every single Orioles game. But yeah, I think that's pretty much going to do it. Laura, I already pimped the Discord. Discord is got the Discord link up here. So go up. I don't know if I can pin comments. I can't pin comments from here, but that's going to do it for this edition of the Ryan Ripken Show. A little bit different today, but we always want to give you guys content, things to talk about, just making sure that I hit on all of the things that we talked about. Yeah, boom. We hit on everything that we were supposed to talk about. Appreciate everyone for tuning in, hitting that like button, hitting that subscribe button. We will be back tomorrow at 2:30 for another edition of the Ryan Ripken Show. I cannot play the music, but do 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 do. Bow 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 bow. That's going to do it for this edition of the Ryan Ripken Show. A little different today, but appreciate everyone tuning in as always. Have a fantastic Tuesday, and I will see you later for another edition of Kevin and Zach React tonight, and then we will see you tomorrow for another edition of the Ryan Ripken Show here at 2:30. Have a fantastic day, everyone. Like, subscribe, become a member. Have a great stinking Tuesday.